So Valve surprised a fair number of us with the announcement of the Steam Deck, and it has got us both crazy excited for a number of reasons. We're going to go into those in these videos today. A lot of people are kind of giving it a hot take that it is a Nintendo Switch killer, although we don't necessarily agree with that assessment, but it is safe to say that the Valve Steam Deck certainly has a lot in common with this, and we cannot wait to get our hands on it. So for those of you who somehow missed the announcement, it came as somewhat of a surprise. There was a leak towards the beginning of the year that did suggest that Valve were working on something that was handheld, but basically they have now fully announced it, and it is a handheld PC, so very much like the Nintendo Switch. The device is very reminiscent of the old Sega Game Gear, but it runs on Linux and it will be able to play pretty much any PC game. There will be a few exceptions with things that have really high levels of anti-cheat, but Valve are in talks with those developers to get something working through Proton so that those games that do have a high level of anti-cheat will be able to work on the system. So for those of you out there who like the ability to be able to do gaming on the go, handheld gaming, or just not be sat hunkered down at your big PC, well, this could potentially be the option for you. Now, when Liam first sent me the news of this, I looked at it and I thought it was some kind of Chinese knockoff because it just seemed too good to be true. The price point starts at £349 for 64 gigabyte, and then the next one up for 256 gig is £459. So at that price point for what it was offering and what it was showing off, it just seemed like something like the Retro Pocket 2, just a more enhanced version of it. But then I realised it was actually developed by Valve and I got very, very excited for it. Now, there are a number of reasons why we really enjoyed this sort of form factor. For me personally, I always end up doing a lot of handheld gaming using things like the Nintendo Switch, using cloud gaming like Stadia, GeForce Now and Microsoft xCloud, and there's a massive reason for that. I've hit the age now where I'm often looking after my kids, which means I'll be in the living room or I'll be somewhere else with them, and it's just nice to be able to pick up something, quickly have a gaming session, then pause it or put it aside when one of them, pushes the other one over and starts crying. I can't really spend that much time hunkered down at my PC anymore, loading it up, getting the headphones on and all of that. So having something that is handheld is an absolute blessing for me and allows me to do gaming as and when I want to, pretty much, which is really, really handy. A lot of people seem to be talking about they don't understand the reasons for it and they don't understand the reason why Valve brought something out like this, but to me it just makes perfect sense. Nintendo has demonstrated that there is definitely a market for handhelds, and even though a lot of people seem to be abandoning it, they've done a really, really good job and it is selling like hotcakes. We talked about the new OLED model and the fact that a lot of people were disappointed that they didn't do more, but Nintendo doesn't need to do more at the moment because there's not any competition. So hopefully the Steam Deck will bring some of that competition back to the market and get them both really innovating so we start to see some new things in the handheld market. Because the Steam Deck is basically a fully fledged PC, Valve have also said that you can install pretty much any operating system on there that you like as well. So if you want to have Windows because it's your comfort thing, you can install that on there. You can install other game launchers as well, so if you want to use Epic Games instead of using Steam, you'll be able to do that, and that opens up the window for some other really interesting things. So the Steam Deck promises ultimately to become a really, really good emulation device because you'll be able to install all those retro games and ROMs and everything else, and that's going to make it a really, really interesting. So your likes of something like the Retro Pocket 2 or Anbernic RG351V, so these things are going to be left as the really budget thing, but there's obviously a market for these things because that's why they're selling, and a lot of you in the comments talk about how much you enjoy this sort of thing because you want that old handheld emulation, and something like the Steam Deck's going to offer that. Granted, it'll be more expensive than something like this, but then you'll also be able to do your PC gaming as well, and you'll have more power to be able to do some really, really interesting emulation. Throw in the fact that you can also dock something like the Steam Deck as well, which means you'll be able to play in the living rooms. So again, one of the ways I try and set my gaming up is I'll try to do Steam in-home streaming to my Nvidia Shield TV, and it works the majority of the time, but a lot of the time there can be some irritating little setup things where I need to run back to my PC to get something to work and then close something else down because it's crashed. With the Steam Deck, I can literally just dock it and pretty much get ready to go. So it just opens up that really versatile way of playing. I can play on my big screen TV, I can play it on my monitor, I can play it handheld as well. Now, obviously, we have relatively realistic expectations of this. It's probably not going to look at the absolute best and give you the best gaming experience, but it's going to give you a pretty damned decent gaming experience. Developers who've been working relatively closely with Valve have said that it's very similar in terms of a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One in terms of power, so it'll be really interesting to see how that turns out. They showed off Jedi Fallen Order running at high graphics at 30 frames per second, and it looked absolutely stunning and didn't seem to have too many dropped frames, so again, it just shows off the high level of performance that we can hopefully expect from this thing. Now, unfortunately, it won't be shipping until December, and mine and Liam's units won't be shipping until Q1 next year, so we do have some time to wait, but we absolutely cannot wait to play with this thing. It definitely promises to open up the way that we play games, and it really hopefully will bring some more competition back to that handheld market, because Nintendo Switch at the moment, you know what, a fantastic little console, but they absolutely do need a little bit of a push just so they start innovating and bringing even more things to this handheld market. Now, one thing that we will absolutely say is we seem to be seeing a lot of comments floating around at the moment that this is going to die because Valve are going to just kill it with the Steam Deck. And to be honest, we don't agree with that. At the end of the day, what Nintendo do well is they bring across their own titles, and people aren't just picking this up because they like gaming on the go. They like the Nintendo titles. They like things like your Pokemons, your Marios, your Zeldas, all of that comes with owning one of these consoles. It's also always going to be just that little bit easier to pick this up and play it. Things like parents going out there to buy it as well for the kids for Christmas. It's just one of those consoles that's easy to understand. They know what they're getting. So in terms of it being a Nintendo Switch killer, we don't necessarily agree with that. However, there are a few things where it probably will hurt Nintendo sales a little bit. For example, at the moment, having a PC library and also having a Nintendo Switch, there's a number of games that come out for this device that I already own on my PC. And I kind of want to play them on this, but I don't want to pay like the £60, premium that I have to get it on this device. And I don't necessarily want to own it on my PC and my Nintendo Switch. With the Steam Deck, I'll just be able to play them on that device, and I won't have to worry about rebuying those games. And I'll also get that cross-save compatibility and all of that juicy goodness that comes with Steam. So that will probably hurt Nintendo sales just that little bit, but I guess only time will tell. So let us know in the comments below, are you excited for Valve's Steam Deck? We know we absolutely are, and we cannot wait to play with one. Performance obviously remains to be seen, and hopefully we're not setting our expectations too high, but from what we've seen so far and from what we've heard, it does look as though it's going to deliver some pretty damn decent results. It's obviously not going to blow us away trying to hook it up to a 4K monitor or anything like that, but that's ultimately not what it's intended for. However, it's got us really excited about the ability to be able to play our Steam library and hopefully get through some of that backlog that we just have never been able to get through to, and play it in a very different way. So that's it. That's the reasons why we are excited for Valve's Steam Deck, and let us know in the comments below if you feel the same. If not, let us know as well, because we'd love to hear your take on it. In the meantime, stay safe, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be back in the future with some more awesome content, hopefully when it is less hot, because I am absolutely melting. So goodbye for now, and we'll see you soon. Bye.